In 2022, we wrap up the Jurassic World trilogy with Jurassic World Dominion, directed by Colin Trevorrow, starring Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum. This movie is about 4 years after the destruction of Isla Nublar. Biosyn operatives attempt to seek out and find Maisie Lockwood, while Dr. Ellie Sattler is out investigating a genetically engineered swarm of giant insects. So we're going to talk about this movie and help you decide if it's the right one to watch as a Christian right now. Hey friends, welcome to the channel. I am your host Tim, and we exist to help Christians live in the world, not of the world, by utilizing our convictions in the movies and shows we watch. And Jurassic World Dominion is rated PG-13 for some intense sequences of some action, some violence, and some language. So we're going to dive into any convictions you may have that may prevent you from watching this movie, any theological themes present in the film, and dive into my own thoughts wrapping up our review. Without further ado, let's dive into the Christian Conviction Meter. If this is your first time here, the Christian Conviction Meter is a series of 5 convictions that may distract or hinder your relationship with Jesus. Ultimately, this is a guide and a resource to help you figure out whether or not Jurassic World Dominion aligns with your convictions and is a movie that you should watch. Without further ado, let's dive into our first category of violence and gore. And just like previous Jurassic movies, there is some and a lot of dinosaur action in this one, and that means biting and clawing and chewing and gnashing of teeth and all the things you would expect from encounters with dinosaurs. It is contained within this movie. I do want to mention quickly, there is one particular scene within this realm where a guy is kind of snatched up by a much larger carnivorous dinosaur. So that is something to kind of keep in mind here. That being said though, there is some wounds that are a part of this movie, but there is nothing serious. There's very minor blood throughout the film, but there are some cuts, scrapes, scratches, all that stuff that comes from a more intense action adventure like this type of movie. The other thing to note here is there are a few deaths within the film, and this is going to be a thing because of the fact that dinosaurs, at least in the Jurassic trilogy, are very much meant and shown as hunters. So that means there is going to be some death throughout the film, whether towards the back of the screen or front on screen. On top of that sort of subject here, there also is, of course, some explosions, crashes, some of those things as well. And wrapping it up with a little quick thing here, there is a moment later on in the film where dinosaurs are kind of fighting each other, and one dinosaur does stab another dinosaur. But all these things in mind, it's a pretty average PG-13 film. We're going to give this a 3 out of 5. Our next category is lust, and there is some mild flirtation conversations that happen in this movie, and there also is a few kisses that are also part of this movie, and some relationship tensions throughout. But again, there's nothing really explicitly in this category, and so this is going to be a 0 out of 5 here. Our next category is substances, and just like some of the other Jurassic movies, there is the use of tranquilizer darts that are a part of this one, and there also is one character in particular who is seen drinking beer, but that's about it. There really isn't any abuse of either substance in this one. We're going to give this a 1 out of 5 though, just to be on the safe side here. Our next category is profanity, and for the most part, it has most of what you would expect from a PG-13 type film. Hell is used within the film. The DA word, the BA word, BI word, SH word, the DI word, and the AS word are all used within the film. There also is the use of the middle finger, but there is no F words used within this film. To be on the safe side here, as per usual, we're going to give this a 3 out of 5 in this category. And our last category is intense/horror scenes. This is not a horror movie, which means there's no horror imagery contained within the film. But this is a dinosaur movie, and dinosaurs, particularly in this trilogy, have been used as more kind of creepy factors here. There's lots of screaming, there's lots of intense action and moments of suspense with these dinosaurs. There also is a couple car crashes and things of that sort that is contained within the film, and there also is a kidnapping sequence contained within this film. On top of all those things I mentioned, some of the dinosaur/bug stuff that is a part of this movie can be pretty creepy. The main kind of driver of the story, which we'll talk about on the review, my thoughts on it, but the main driver is talking about locusts. So if you're not a big fan of locusts or those type of bugs, it's a part of the movie, so I'd keep that on the safe side. And some of the dinosaurs here are creepy, and that's kind of the point, as well as a few dinosaur chasing sequences here. Out of all the Jurassic World movies in particular, I would still say this doesn't lean into as intense as some of these other movies have, so we're going to give this a 3 out of 5 in this category. So our grand total for the conviction meter of Jurassic World Dominion is going to be a 11 out of 25. Of course, it leans pretty average, pretty moderate in the intense/horror scenes, and of course the violence and gore, as well as the profanity. If there are anything that we talked about through this review that may distract or hinder your relationship with Jesus Christ, make sure to follow your convictions. Ultimately, that's what we're here to do, is to help you make sure that you're continuing to pursue after Jesus and that there really isn't any distractions, because Lord knows there are already a ton of distractions, and movies don't need to be an extra burden in our relationship with Christ. But without further ado, it leads us beautifully into our next topic as we dive into some theological themes that are a part of Jurassic World Dominion. And once again, just like the other Jurassic movies, the really overarching theological theme I see within this movie is going to be the consequences of creating instead of having God do it. You have in the first Jurassic movie, Jeff Goldblum's character, right? He's very much like, science, pretty much focused on the fact that you could do it. You didn't stop to think of whether you should do it, right? Or something to that effect there with Dr. Ian Malcolm. And so that is still very much a part of this movie. And I would say it definitely is more so with the fact of introducing the locusts and bugs that are pretty prevalent in this movie. We are not designed to create what God has already created. God made plants, animals, the sea, the sky, the moon, stars, us, all on his own, all for his glory. And so us designing things is taking stuff outside of the realm of God. Obviously, this is science fiction, but not too much science fiction, because if you've paid attention at all recently, we brought dire wolves back, apparently, from extinction. And so who the heck knows what else could be brought back with just something as simple as DNA. It is pretty creepy how close we could be to an actual Jurassic Park, which does feel really weird in my mind, but hey, science fiction always has some sort of base in reality, doesn't it? That being said, though, there's nothing explicitly about Jesus, about the church, the Bible, Christianity. Not a lot of that is contained within this movie. So with our theological themes wrapped up, let's dive into my own personal thoughts. What do I think of Jurassic World Dominion? And I just have to get this out of the way. It's great to see our classic trio once again. Alan Grant, Ian Malcolm, Ellie Sattler, all those characters together once again. It's cool to see, and I enjoy that. But nostalgia can only go so far if the plot is weak. And before we dive into just the biggest and worst parts of this movie, there are a pretty cool few things here. Our cast is still solid. Bryce Dallas Howard, Chris Pratt, once again, great. We have a few newcomers in the film, and they are quite solid as well in this movie. The thing, though, that I will say is while this movie doesn't focus a ton on dinosaurs, I know, shocking, we'll talk about it in a second, the dinosaur parts in this movie are still fun. It's cool to see the ramifications of the last movie come into play in this one, which should have been the main plot. But hey, that's just too easy, I guess. And not as cool as bugs, but we'll talk about that in a second when I go probably full rant here. I mean, there's some decent parts here and there. The score's pretty good. There's some fun kind of references and a few neat things in the film. One of those other neat things, though, is seeing our Jurassic World and our Jurassic Park groups come together in this film and see how they interact with one another was really cool. And honestly, I would say that's probably the best part of the movie. But boy, oh boy, this movie is so flawed. To start off with, we once again have the same retread of a billionaire trying to take advantage of dinosaurs. I understand why it's an easy thing to do here, but like, you've treaded the same waters now technically 3 times and maybe more than that. And it's like, can we do something different? And that's one of the reasons why I think Jurassic Park, the original film, is so well done, because it doesn't retread anything. I mean, granted, it's the start of the franchise, but there's a sense of magic and there's a sense of fright that is done so well in that one. This one is very much focused on the fright and not really much of the magic. It has some moments very early on in the film that focus on the magic of dinosaurs. There's something cool about these prehistoric creatures. Doesn't matter if it's a leaf eater or if it's a carnivore, right? There's something magical about seeing a dinosaur. And this movie, as well, just for the most part, except for maybe some bits and pieces in Jurassic World, you'll lose that. And that's unfortunate. But the other, and really the biggest issue I have with this film is the last movie set up something really cool, right? With dinosaurs entering our world. I know I'm spoiling the last one. I'm sorry. It's the only way I can get around this. But that's a cool premise. Why is that not the plot of this movie? Instead, we're focusing on giant locusts for God knows how long, 50% of the movie. Are dinosaurs not cool enough on their own? Like, yeah, there's some moments early on in the film, and there's some bits and pieces early on that make it seem like this could be the main driver of the story. But no, let's focus on bugs, because dinosaurs aren't cool anymore. Seriously? That's what you want to spend the last movie of this trilogy focusing on? It disappoints me with the fact that the movie's called Jurassic World. And granted, Jurassic can also mean, prehistoric bugs too, I'm sure. But that's not the reason we go to see these movies. That's not the reason why people fell in love with this franchise back in the 90s. It was because of the magic of dinosaurs and the fright of dinosaurs. But sure, let's focus on bugs for this movie. It doesn't make sense. And yeah, the plot in and of itself is decent. It's okay. It's nothing special. And why even release them in the first place? Like, why was this a thing? I can understand building something like the Indominus Rex, right, from Jurassic World, or the Indoraptor in Fallen Kingdom, or making dinosaurs, right, in the original Jurassic Park. I understand all of those things because, hey, we can show something cool. Other than people who are really fascinated by bugs, no one wants to see bugs. No one wants to see bugs. They want to see dinosaurs. And that is the secondary part. But hey, they showed up in the last little bit here and were kind of the main, threat towards the end. How cool is that? No. When I first saw the movie, and I saw it at 4DX Theater, which made the experience a little more enjoyable, I went into this movie pretty excited because of the way Fallen Kingdom had ended. Well, I got spoiled for it. But I was excited to check it out because it was, we're bringing back the original Jurassic Park cast, and we're bringing, these guys together with Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard's characters, and that should be cool. And that's what was advertised, and it just fell flat. And that is so disappointing. It could have been so much better, but it just fell so flat. So overall, I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. I had it initially a different score when I wrote this review, but as I'm talking about it, the more the cons of this movie outweigh the pros of this one, so it's gonna stay like right at the 50% mark. Not the worst film I've ever seen, right? If you want to check that out, go watch our review of Snow White, the 2025 film. If you want to see one of my worst movies of all time. But it's not like anything stellar. It's not fantastic. It's not good. It's not even okay. It's just meh. So it's an 11 out of 25 on the conviction meter. It's a 5 out of 10 in our review. Those are my thoughts, so let me know yours down in the comments below. What did you think of Jurassic World Dominion? That being said, thank you all so much for taking time out of your day to spend time with us here. We truly appreciate it. It means the absolute world to us. And if you want to join our community here on YouTube, consider thumbsing up the video and subscribing down below, joining a part of our family here on YouTube. It's just to help us send us out until the algorithm allows us to reach more Christians so they can utilize their convictions to ultimately continue to follow Jesus better. Before you go, there's a few video recommendations over here that YouTube is suggesting to you, one of which is our review of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. If you want to take a look at that, and we'll see you all in the next one.